Hello, welcome to Role Play Cafe. I thought I'd get on here a minute because I think it might be instructional or at least interesting to a degree if I expound upon the naive aspect of the presenter, not creating an overarching storyline or having an end game already in place. How do we do it? It might be a head scratcher to some, even though DMs have been winging it, for a long time. And every DM has to do that to a certain amount. We've just ramped up the scales. But I'll give a couple of little commentary of a couple of games that I was the presenter, aka traditional GM or DM, whatever you prefer. We call it presenter because it really is flying by the seat of your pants, playing off the cuff, improvising, and just rolling with the flow. All right. So anyway, in this situation, I was coming home. I was working out of town, was driving home, and I was going to play with Jason and Todd. Jason, I think, was originally going to be a presenter, and he said, "Are you want to do it?" And I said, "Well, sure, I can do it. I can make up something, right?" And he had already ran me in 2061, which is a post-apocalyptic thing. So we thought it would be fun to throw it. I live down south, if you hadn't detected my accent. So do it in the city that I live by, right? So I thought, okay, now I'm gonna do this. So when I get there to the house, literally I scratch down the random seeds, words for me. I like doing it. The more vague for me, the better. But it gives me more flexibility and room to define it how I like to see it, even though you can put a whole sentence you want to, or half a sentence, or whatever the seed is. But I tend to like kind of one word. Anyway, so I write these down literally. When I get home, I write them down real quick and I sit down and I say, okay, guys, this is the situation. Here's the context of the world you're in. Okay. And you'll notice throughout my recap, and it's influenced because I'm playing off the cuff. I'm pulling out, like we all do when we play games. I'm pulling from references that I have locked in my head, even subconsciously, because I'm not consciously thinking about this. But after the fact, I go, oh, yeah, that might have been influenced by this and that. But nevertheless, in downtown, I had it kind of, it's funny because I was listening to a song by Sir Charles called Friday Night Fish Fry. It was Friday. I was ready to get home. Thank God it's Friday. I get home. So what is the warlord in this post-apocalyptic time, the kingpin of this area? Think something like Escape from New York, right? All right. He's downtown. He's got everything barricaded off. Tight grip. I put him in the penthouse of the largest building in town. His name's Sir Charles, right? Even made him look like pimp. All right. Then we got, not that far away is a military base, and there's a gospel rescue mission downtown. And when I got there, I said, the military base is trying to rebuild and trying to facilitate and care for those on the outskirts of town or who need it, but he's got the center of town locked down, right? Okay, that was what I told him. And Jason, being inspired probably by the opportunity to play a Southern gentleman, he said, "Y'all want to play a Southern gentleman?" And I said, well, okay, well, maybe you got a contact with Sir Charles and the gospel rescue mission, and Todd wanted to play a soldier from the local military base. I said, okay, that's fine. Okay, so Todd, what would bring Todd from the military base to town? Well, okay, look, your contact in town is the gospel rescue mission. Makes sense that Sir Charles would let it exist to take care of the waifs and the whatever underneath there, so he wouldn't have to be bothered with them so much, right? Jason's character, Ardeth Bay, still one of the greatest characters I've ever had the pleasure of GMing for. He presented himself. He would be the face of Sir Charles and go conduct business and be very eloquent and whatnot. So, but he was still a mole in a way, right? So he would pass on word to the gospel rescue mission. The gospel rescue mission would feed words to the military base, but the word had stopped for some reason. So Todd was coming in with a group of people to investigate. So I started in media res right in front of the Capitol building. the Jeep or Humvee or whatever is in flames. It's been Molotov cocktail by a bunch of, you can see this in any kind of a movie scene, right? And Todd's out cold. Well, Ardith Bay sees this, right? So he says he wants to try to sneak in there after whatever and pull him out. So he has to roll for it. He does it successfully without being seen, kind of in the shadows or whatever, and then gets him out. And I'm doing this from recollection. It's been like a year, right? So he makes him way to, takes Murph, which is Todd's character, to the gospel rescue mission to be treated, for his wounds, to get up there. And when Todd comes to, he's like, I can't remember what exactly he had left there with some valuables, maybe a radio or maybe his weaponry or all of the above or whatever. So he said he had to get back to the, to the Humvee. I said, okay. They head back there, and before they get there, they see a lot of this stuff is just prompted by the community visualization of what's going on. Everybody can kind of see this happening, and it spurs you to, as a presenter, to just play off the cuff as far as what is occurring at that time. All right. And a lot of this stuff can be like roles too. Like he was going to check and search for his equipment or whatever, rolled, didn't come up favorably. And then they had to question somebody else on the scene. They looked because they couldn't find it. Did anybody mess with his stuff? And then finally pulled it out. 2 kids ran off this way. And I made that up. You make it up in the moment when you're conversing with the NPC. And the character asks you, and I go, I saw 2 boys running off that way, 2 young men. So I pointed them down there toward the district, a little bit downhill. They went down there to scout it out. And when they get down there, they're like, do we see anything? And I'm visualizing, it's at night when all this is going on. Dim street lamps. And of course, you're going to envision somebody as a hobo over to the side. And that's what I say. Well, you're looking around, you don't see anything broken glass in the windows or whatever, because it's kind of a post-apocalyptic. Like I said, and some drunk or hobo is slouched over on the side. It's the only person you see. Give a dog a bone, And then they walk up to him, and that conversation was epic. Still remember that to this day. Ardith Bay talking to him, Marshall, yeah, and that was just playing it live. And he had to deal with Marshall giving him a drink because, Marshall wouldn't up the information. He knew he'd be betraying this world he's in. You don't want to be a snitch. You don't want to do that. But he promised Marshall some liquor. So he pointed out them 2 boys was hiding over there, right? Now, it wasn't written. It was just, how far would these boys logically get? In the way, when I said boys, I'm already skewing it toward younger, Aladdin type guys that are just trying to get by. Everybody's probably malnourished and, just digging in trash or scraps, right? So probably going to use it for barter. So that's what they had to do, is walk over to there and then barter with them and get, and gave excellent time for Jason to present his character. That's how he broached the situation, through dialogue and through coaxing. And, they knew his status among the area for what position he chose. And so they gave over what the radio or whatever it was, the stuff that they had taken, right? So they started heading back up to the main center of town. Their call, their decision, that was going back. Well, I'm rolling random seeds. All right. So I roll, and it simply says flood. Now, what does that mean? What does that mean? So immediately I have to start saying, well, you hear, splashes as you're walking, as you come over, you look and then you see the water rushing down the street and around your feet. And, it's getting higher and higher. So they start rushing. It lifts a car or 2 and slides to the side. The water is coming in like heavy. So they make it to the gospel rescue mission, get on the inside. That's where they wanted to go. And what do you think is going to happen in the gospel rescue mission? So therefore, yeah, there's probably a lot of people sleeping on cots in the bottom and maybe in the basement. And the guy with the gospel rescue mission, which they had already talked to before and healed him up. It's like, we need to get these people up and out to the roof, right? Where else are you going to go? So they had to help them up. And then they got to the roof. And I'm like, where'd the flood come from? Obviously, 2+2, there was a water tower that had fallen over. Well, this leads into the thing, though, why had it fallen over, which points toward maybe either Sir Charles's guy did it, or there's a rival gang or something that was trying to take his resources away or do whatever. So, but that's just slid into the background. I can work with that later, right? So after they do that, they're talking about what to do next. And the communication had been cut off. I hadn't defined on how that was. So but when they're talking to the guy, I have to go, why is the communication cut? And then I think, well, right down to the corner, there would be underground telecommunication lines leading there. And, there was word that the concrete was broken up from one of the people in there. It's like, okay, well, the water receded. They left out and walked over probably 4 blocks away and to the right. And they see this concrete. They look down in there and they see the wires have all been tore up and broken. And there they find why the communications have been stopped. So they're there. And on the way there, see, when you roll these seeds, you're looking for the next source of inspiration or situation that could occur, right? And so I rolled killer. What does killer mean? All right. So obviously there's, in my mind, immediately some kind of a psychotic killer on the loose that Sir Charles lets him know, but it's weird because the guy won't mess with anybody that he isn't allowed to mess with. So he's a useful tool for Sir Charles to manipulate or to put fear in people. You see what I'm saying? Any kind of thing like that. Well, anyway, the guy walks up to him, or they're in the bottom there, and it's on a red light district, right? So I just say that I had immediately said that there was a hooker on the corner by the street lamp whenever they were looking down there. And so I just added that the killer was walking up, and I said, you hear clank, 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 because I had put in my mind, immediately put a trench coat on him. And of course, you're going to have the jangling of spurs or whatever, because it's kind of a Wild West Cowboy Bebop type image that popped in my head, right? So I'm doing that. Well, that little jangle, all right, walks up, and I also had him flipping a switchblade. Well, they don't see him at this moment, but I say, you hear the jangle, and you look up, and he is leaned over. They hear him after he leans over the shoulder of that the hooker right there, and he says something to him, but he stabs her at the time, and she slides down the pole, right? And they're like, oh, geez, what is going on here? So they have to get out there. There's a gunfight, and around that pole, as they pirouette around the pole, actually they do kill him. He may have hit them once or twice or something like that, but he takes them out. So immediately he falls on the opposite side for cinematic effect of the hooker and slides down the pole. And then I say, none of this is planned. His trench coat flaps open, and all the jingling sounds that in my mind initially were spurs actually were just dog tags. So then that tied into Todd's character, and I named him the dog tag killer, right? And I told Todd, yeah, there had been rumors of that, and he saw some of the tags of some of his missing squad mates and whatnot, right? As he pilfering through there. So there's an emotional connection. He's just taking this guy out, etc. Well, they go trying to make it back to the other area, and I had rolled on the next one. I'd rolled a gorilla because years ago in the zoo around here, the gorilla actually got out of his pen because the bamboo fell up the side. They had to tranquilize him, get him back to. But what if it gotten out? Now I'm pulling off maybe a 12 Monkeys type subconscious memory, right? So that's what happens next. After there's an overpass, it's wooded and there's a stream underneath there, but he had started pulling on or slamming up against the chain link fence and got over it, busted through it and got over it. And of course, sees them and starts chasing them down. A horrendous beat down right on the corner, not that far away from Sir Charles's tower, right? Where would obviously be guards posted at the bottom. All right, so they're seeing it. They're not able to sneak up. They're not able to do anything to, get any kind of approach to Sir Charles or anything quietly. This ape begins to pummel Todd. I think he got down to maybe one wound or so, right? And Jason's firing at him off to the side. He does hit him. Todd's already kind of laid there and out. And when the ape thinks you're dead, he's not going to mess with you, especially if he gets shot. So he starts bum rushing Jason's character, Ardath. Ardath moves out the way. There is, from that, because he had made it up to the corner where he could be seen from the guards that were protecting the tower, right? So they come rushing in. He barely makes it and shoots the thing as it retreats, and they're shooting after it. I think it gets away or whatever, but he's hurt too, right? He's been slammed. So they take them both to Sir Charles's thing. And in the bottom there, in the bottom of the basement area, Murph wakes up on that table. He's been worked on. Ardath actually lives there in his little area. So he went back up to his room after he said, please, fix him up or whatever. And Sir Charles comes in there and talks with him. And that was an interesting conversation. And he's like, because he's wondering why Ardath, his man, was seen or is cavorting with this soldier, which you're supposed to take them out, so he's questioning his loyalty, and he doesn't really believe him right now. What's going on? Anyway, I put a little bit of a Thunderdome aspect in there whenever there had to be something. There was a discussion I remember about the weaponry that was used, with the tech in the bottom. I can't remember exactly how that transpired, which added more evidence against Ardath's case. And so Sir Charles just warned that, maybe it could be settled in the court, the great court. And there's a stadium not that far away from the area there. So I had him in procession, you know what I mean? Go down to that area and carry Ardath and Murph down there. And he had him circle by, put him on the 50-yard line. He did his big speech, Sir Charles did. Can you dig it? All right, we get into the Warriors area. It's just the same kind of thing like that, right? People are watching. So it's like it's like a medieval divine right, who, if you die, you were guilty, that kind of thing. So you're saying you're not with him, let's see what's up. If you are, he'll kill you, that kind of thing. So he pitted them against each other. And it literally, he stepped away from the thing, and they tried to battle their way out of it. I think even Jason tried, or Ardath tried to throw. They were using, I can't remember if it was spears or whatever. It's very gladiatorial, right? Kind of like Thunderdome. But anyway, he threw it at him and missed Sir Charles. If it hit him, maybe he could did whatever. But anyway, they both fight and end up dead on the 50-yard line, right? So all of that, you could say there's no overarching. There was a goal maybe to unseat this warlord if they wanted to do that, because he did have power over that central district, which was the whole problem with the area. So that was a single, like a 2-hour game, that was based on the fly. And I just dropped it into it. But you can see a little bit of how I'm being fed this information through my subconscious and through just whatever I've soaked up over the years from movies and books and everything else. And, just kind of incorporating it on that. Now, another time, same situation, said, let's play something, call it Escape Velocity, right? Like the old Robotech show. It'd be a generational ship with a city on the inside, and you're trying to leave Earth. They're trying to leave Earth, rehabilitate Mars, or just get out of the solar system. Anyway, so they're in there, right? And started them off in a pub, whatever, on the street of the thing. Jason's character, and he was talking to another character, and it was just us two, right? So the character I'd rolled, I think something about a mad scientist or something on this ship or whatever. Well, that wasn't really appropriate to drop into that time. So, but I didn't mention it during the conversation because the guy he was talking to was like, yeah, his girlfriend had worked for one of the doctors in the area, and she was kind of creeped out by him, some of the things he was doing. I didn't really delve deep into that, right? Could have been anything. So that was just it was almost like a foreshadowing. Didn't know if I'd ever use it or whatever like that until time is right. That's why sometimes you can drop these seeds and you go, well, this isn't really right, but it'll still feed into what may come later. All right, still present in the world. Now we know that this is actually in the world. So you're fleshing this stuff out as you go. The next one was we're sitting there and I rolled aliens. Okay, so what does this mean? Is it puppet masters? Is it anything? It could be anything, right? Okay, alien attack. Let's get something right. So you want to fly a mech like in Robotech or any other of the Japanimation shows or whatever. So he gets up and he's a pilot. That's what he is. So he goes over there and gets docked into his mech suit, and they're turned around inside the, and then released outside the ship. They're flying out to meet these incoming blips on the radar, right? Now, I don't even know what these freaking aliens are. Seriously. I'm sitting there, as this stuff is coming up, I'm playing in. I'm like, aliens, okay, you guys, klaxons are going off. You got to run and, he runs and goes, finds this thing, and then they're ejected out, and they're flying, and they're looking for it. And I'm like, you see, and I'm trying to visualize this stuff too. It's like inky black, right? Maybe like in Star Wars, you see the black hooded polished, it's like black chrome or whatever, it's so polished. It has a gleam on it. It's an inky blackness. You can't make out the shape, but you think you see something like it. Your eyes focus in on it, and you see a reflection as it's turning, and then it gets a full shape on it once it gets closer to it. And of course, I said, of course for me, because I'm envisioning this. What does it look like? Okay, so as it's turning, it's like a spherical thing, so it looks like a squid, is what I said, large squid. So how do squids propel themselves? Well, they just plume up in the back and then push forward and go, right? So I'm like, well, if they're darting to and fro like that, maybe they're kind of spearing these mechs. So it becomes a combat like that where they're trying to hit them before they get speared. So that was intense. And one of his wingmen gets speared and stuff like that as they're all firing off, and turns around and tries to hit it. Then he notices, I don't know how you can defeat these things if they got these armored shell holes or whatever. But maybe you can crack them, you can do whatever when you're firing at them, but don't let them kind of get to you. But anyway, after he went through, he turns around, I says, well, you see it plume up, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, like a flower blooming up. So the inside, that's the Achilles heel. Hit them whenever they turn. Whenever they're pluming out to shoot again, that's when if you can get behind them at that angle, if you can jockey for position and shoot off, you got them. All right. So they start doing that. And so we incorporated into the odds of them positioning themselves into shooting and taking them out. All right. Simple enough. They have the thing, but they're being overwhelmed, right? This course of battle, there's too many of them going down. So then, just like Captain Global, he says, everybody back to the ship now. So there's a little dialogue and banter about, no, we can take it. Come on back, Jason says. All right, they head back. They get in the ship, and then what's going to happen here? So I just have them do some kind of MP pulse or some kind of thing that makes these things black out or what. I don't even know if they're mechanical. I don't know much about them, right? So, and then when they get inside, they just hear little pings against the ship, because obviously the large ship, they're dead and floating at a speed, at a velocity where they hit the ship, bounce off. Now the next one I happened to roll was repair when they're in there, right? And after that, I said, well, it kind of fell 1 to 2. It was just like repair. Oh, well, perfect. Obviously, I don't need to repair something on the inside, so Jason, you got to take these repairmen out. He gets a call to repair something on the outside. So they take a little shuttle, kind of similar to what you might see in Star Trek, right? Anyway, they took a little shuttle with these three workers, and he docks it on the outside of the ship, and they go to repair this area, right? Now, I'm just saying they're welding, but the joke is anytime you see construction workers on the side of the road, there's like one guy standing there watching and the other guy's doing it, right? So I quit that while they're sitting over there because Jason said, you'll need to hurry up or whatever. And because I said they're sitting over to the side, one of them sitting down, the other one's kneeling down welding, doing a moment weld, the other one's watching him. And he gets out, I ain't got time for this, walks over there in his spacesuit and says, when are y'all going to be done? And then just reflexively, the guy welding is kind of irritated. And I just said, look, this is what we got to contend with. Why are you trying to moment weld? There's some kind of icky residue or whatever over it. So he shows his glove, right? Like, calm down. And Jason's like, just hurry up. And he turns around and walks back to his shuttle. But a few steps, and then all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, geez. It's black, inky. Maybe I got a little alien in my brain, right? Like the saliva's dripping down. I thought of this after the fact, and I said, oh, crap. Now one of the guys is grabbing his throat, the one that showed you. There's obviously a pinhole because the acid ate through his spacesuit. So he's grabbing it, he's losing air. The lanyards they're attached to, breaking off, and he's drifting off into space. The guy that was sitting down, there was some of it on the area where he was sitting. You see what I'm saying? So he's got to maneuver the shuttle around, open the bay door, and collect these guys before they drift off in eternity, and shut it down, lock it down, and get them oxygen back in it. And whether he could do it or not was depending on the die roll. Because I don't even know if he had anybody die at that time, right? Come back into the ship. That was a close one. He comes back into the ship and he gets down in there, and then that's when that night he goes and speak to his local lieutenant or whatever, which was dressed in a Hawaiian shirt, kind of like I'm dressing now, right? With the little fan and bobbleheads on his desk and everything like that. So we made it. He was trying to still bring the Pacific islands to the inside of that ship, inside of his little area. But smoking a big fat cigar, and then they discuss everything, and then it goes to later on at night. He goes back to that pub, or maybe I think he went back to his cabin or something. But that's when I reintroduced the fact that oh boy came back to him with the girl. Something had gone wrong. They said oh boy was wanting to do something, that approached him about doing something with that mad scientist, right? So the mad scientist had it set to where they could shut down. He had made a deal because he wanted to get off and hit one of the asteroids that was around to pull out some kind of, they didn't know what he was doing, all right? But he needed a pilot. And then when he got in there, they had somebody that was going to kind of go radio silence and open up the bay doors secretively so he could take the student if he, for a certain amount of money or whatever. And the girl was there. The mad scientist was in the back. And they get to that, they land on that asteroid. And oh boy, pulls out some kind of mechanism and sets it down. It drills in and pulls out a core from that and deposits in there, and they set it in there and then stick it in the back and head back. Like, what is he doing? What could this be? I don't really know yet, but it could be anything. You know what I mean? I could make it, and it's the flexibility to what is this, to wander and fill in the blanks as you go. So that situation, I remember whenever I divined the acid, it was cool because I said, well, this is perfect, because I immediately thought about, I think it's Venus that has the like thick acid clouds with the acid rain all around it. I see them squid-like aliens coming from maybe Venus, you know what I mean? Worming their way through the clouds or thick clouds or whatever. So I'm like, well, but see, you populate and you flesh out this universe, this world, or things that have happened. And that's why I said you bring in relevant information. If it's from the preceding game or if it's inside of that session, just for situations that's going down, and then you just make natural, you wing it. It's like freestyling a rap song. You just go with it. I mean, that's a lot of what I do with it. So I'm prompted to do it. There is the context of the world that you're in. Everybody knows that. They know the situation. They know your position in that world, how you interact with it. That's all laid out beforehand, right? They know the major players in the world, whether it's a big baddie or and how the intricacies of society work. Like I said, the warlord, obviously, you know, he's over that lockdown area of town. He's not going to be a nice guy. Not going to be a nice guy. Do you want to go take him out? So, and you got to keep in mind too, this is each of those were about 2-hour sessions, and the volume of what we accomplished inside of those 2-hour sessions that even lended mysteries or how you could go further. Now, not necessarily on the first one because they both croaked, but the second one, yeah, you could go back. It's one player doing that. First game was 2 players interacting. So we've had it, I know 4, maybe 5 players, you know, so I mean, the dialogue and the interaction goes back and forth between everybody at the table, and everybody yields to each other to say something, and you know, you jump in when it's appropriately timed for you to do so, to act as a character. It's interesting. So anyway, I don't know. I hope that at least from my personal experiences being a presenter, how I love just playing off the cuff and on the fly. Nothing, you know, to me, prepping for 2 weeks or however long it takes and coming up with these, it would be cool if they could. A lot of times they don't touch on that those aspects that you've prepared for. Nothing wrong with preparing if you want to play that way, but it is really nice to sit down and just say, okay, this is the world we're playing in. This is the situation. And this is random seeds that is going to inspire or spark, you know, the random seeds still tie in with the setting. You could put Sir Charles is missing, you know what I mean, on my list, and I would have to introduce that if I roll it. It just becomes another thing that's happening. It becomes aware to your players, and they have to either ignore, engage, or take advantage of the situation, or whatever they want to do. So anyway, it is what it is. Just wanted to elaborate a little bit on that from my personal point of view, because I love doing it. It's connecting the dots. It's yeah, it's fun. It's fun. You feel alive. You're there. You're having to focus on what's going on, and you're playing in the game. It may be, you know, some may not like doing it. They want to prepare, but I find a lot of times I prepare. I'm spending a lot of my effort on trying to keep people on task or on the course. You know what I mean? I'm not surprised by anything really that happens in the storyline, maybe by their immediate actions. But you never know in Dark Age of Man where anything's going to go or what they're going to do. But there are definitely players in the world and bad guys in the world, or situations in the world, whether it's like a plague or something going on that you got to contend with. It's the resistance of the world pushing back on you, however that manifests. All right. Anyway, peace out. Let's try to go. Have a good one.